Sheffield United humiliated.
Oh, boo-hoo.
How is anyone meant to compete with that?
Hold your nerve, keep calm.
I'm fishing for compliments, guys.
You won't get them in the comments.
Ben, anything?
Well,
hello guys and welcome back to The Sportsman Untitled, to our Week 1 review. I'm joined by Benjamin Bloom. Ben, how are you doing?
I'm lovely. Nice dull opening weekend in the Championship, wasn't it?
Entertainment for the masses. We're going to get into that. But first, we need to welcome back the main man. Gab Sutton's back on the show, ladies and gentlemen. Gab, how are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. Yeah, lovely to be back and looking forward to getting into some Championship action.
Absolutely. I think there's only one place we can start, really, which is at Bramall Lane. Sheffield United humiliated, Ben, by Bristol City. A 4-1 win for the away side. We'll come on to Bristol City, but first, did anyone expect this start from Sheffield United?
No. I mean, I suppose when we get into the minutiae of the game, it played out in a certain way, didn't it? Where Bristol City were very good at playing the circumstances of this game, and when their pressing worked, it really worked. They found the spaces, their finishing was on point. I thought the second goal, not to mention the free kick was great, but the second goal was beautiful counter-attack, wasn't it? And then I assume Sellers said at half-time, right, do this, and then they've conceded one straight after half-time and a deflected goal, and then it's gone, and it's 4-1. So I wouldn't be too terrified if you're a Sheffield United fan, because sometimes a game just gets away from you, doesn't it? And that's what happened. But well played Bristol City, because I think we were talking last week, this might be tricky. Manager's gone, maybe punched a bit above their weight. 68 points to get sixth, we felt was a low total, and what a start.
Exactly. The headline from the first weekend, I feel though, Gab, was Ruben Sellers deciding to do a team talk after a 4-1 home defeat in his first game in charge on the Bramall Lane pitch. It feels like a massive gamble, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Phil Brown did it at Hull City. It was a half-time team talk, I think, that one. So yeah, a little bit unusual. I think I'm going to focusing on the performance side. Sheffield United as an in-possession entity actually impressed me as much as anyone in the Championship in the opening weekend. But as an out-possession entity, they were probably the worst, because it looked quite chaos. They had Reece Davis as a left centre-half in a back four. Harrison Burrows is a very attacking left-back anyway. So there was a lot of, Burrows getting caught up the pitch like he's a wing-back, and Reece Davis, acting like he's a full-back. And that created a lot of openings that Bristol City exploited superbly with the likes of Ross McCrory and Scott Twine. But yeah, I think from Sheffield United's point of view, there's some great in-possession principles and patterns of play that they can really build on. And I don't think that should get lost, but definitely some defensive tweaks and maybe a bit of recruitment.
Unfortunately, Gab, that's far too sensible football analysis. Ben, there was a man calling into BBC Radio Sheffield or something, demanding Ruben Sellers was removed from his position. The team talk on the pitch. That's the sort of chaos we want to see after one game week in the Championship, isn't it?
Well, no, but it's a gamble, isn't it? These things tend to go one way if you play this card and you get it wrong in terms of, quote, losing the dressing room. But sometimes we look back at managers going in strongly to begin with, and people say in 2-3 years' time, the best thing he did was that halftime team talk. He really got the players on side there. We'll retrofit our opinion depending on what the next 15 results are, won't we? But bit of a gamble.
100%. And we have a video from Pete from One Stream in Bristol who's going to give us the Bristol City point of view. I expect he's a very, very happy man indeed. So let's hear what he has to say.
Well, it's one way to start a season, isn't it? There's a lot said in pre-season about being merciless and killing teams when you win the ball back, when countering them, and don't think about it, just do it. I think we saw that, particularly with Ross McCrory's goal, the second goal, the quality of our counter, the quality of our finishing is absolutely worlds apart from what we saw last year under Liam Manning. So it's a really good start. It's obviously just a start at this point. If we can get one or two of the unwanted players out and another striker in to give Emil Rees a really good push, because again, he looked absolutely brilliant. So mobile for a big number 9. If we can get another one of those in the door, I think we're going to end up surprising some people again. Couldn't ask for a much better start. A lot of optimism now over the 2 games we've got at home this week in the Carabao and against Charlton on Saturday. I think it's going to be a sold out Ashton Gate. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of fun covering it on Once You're in Bristol this season.
He's a very, very happy man indeed, isn't he, Gab? Thoughts on Bristol City in general? I mean, Ben touched on it. Amazing counter-attack. What a start under Gerhard Struber. Brilliant stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be slightly different under Gerhard Struber because although...
What pronunciation, by the way. I couldn't pull that off, could I, Ben? Unbelievable.
I'm a continental man. I think under Liam Manning, it was very kind of stringent in the way that they approached things, both with the ball and also quite a compact shape, if you like, Bristol City had. I think under Struber, they're going to be very aggressive with the way that they approach things and maybe press with a higher line. Really intriguing to see how that translates, but certainly a great start. I'm not going to go, just like I'm not going to go all in against Sheffield United after one game. I think for Bristol City, I think they had 5 shots on target and scored 4 of them. Probably not going to do that every week. So it was a case of clinical finishing. Lovely free kick, wasn't it, from Scott Twine, who had a wonderful afternoon. Big season, I think, for Twine, because it's felt like after a really big season under Liam Manning at MK Dons in the 21-22 campaign, it's been a bit quiet for him. He was at Burnley, where he didn't get a huge amount of opportunities, and then Bristol City, although they made the playoffs last season, you wouldn't say Twine was super influential. But hopefully he can show some of the talent we've seen from him in League One and League Two in the Championship this year. Now he's had a couple of seasons to acclimatise.
I genuinely think he could be the best free kick taker in the world. I'm not. I don't think that's an exaggeration in terms of his conversion.
Well, I used to argue Ivan Toney was the best penalty taker in the world in the EFL. Yeah,
it's a similar sort of thing, isn't it? It's dead ball. You know he's probably going to score. James Ward-Prowse isn't at his game anymore. I'm back in Scott Twine every day of the week. Let's go around to the grounds in the Championship now. And Ben, you were handed a little surprised when you were at your child's birthday party and you checked the Leicester City Sheffield Wednesday score.
I was. I had it all set up after a summer of worrying about Sheffield Wednesday that they were going to go off to Leicester and get absolutely walloped. And I switched my phone on, which I only did once during my child's birthday party. And it said Leicester City 0, Sheffield Wednesday 1. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what's happening here? I don't know if you want to come to the parachute teams at large, but they all struggled a bit. And we've spoken about August being a difficult time with the churn for the parachute teams. That was so for Leicester, and we've already spoken about Sheffield United, who obviously struggled the most. But yeah, Leicester turned it around. But I don't know if you guys agree, the story is Sheffield Wednesday were much better than we imagined, and the abject disaster and massive defeats we've been forecasting every week, well, we didn't get one in the first round.
I think the thing is, for all the problems they have on the pitch, the first 11 you look at is an 11 of players with some Championship
and then
quality.
siege mentality, Simon, as well.
And I think Pedersen deserves massive credit for kind of harnessing that. Yeah. Getting the first goal in that game, what a moment for Sheffield Wednesday fans. I know someone went and he said it was one of the best games he's ever been to, despite the late goal they conceded, because there was just that feeling. Yeah. And of course the protest that happened in the first 5 minutes. Sure. Brilliant seeing, brilliant the reception it got as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That moment where Sheffield Wednesday fans came in and Leicester City fans were applauding them, I think that they showed their class as a football club that day, that's for sure. I think for Wednesday, it's nice to see them have a nice performance, a spirited performance, a goal to just give them a bit of something different, I suppose, to think about. But I do feel like over the course of the season, you look at their bench, it was so youthful, and they don't have a proper Championship squad, I don't think. Actually, the first 11, in places is okay, but I think that lack of depth because of the off-field issues is going to be a problem for them.
Picked up a couple of injuries as well, and Barry Bannon sent off as well, so it's hardly an ideal start, is it?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very long, difficult season for Sheffield Wednesday. I think if you offered Wednesday right now the chance to get Dave Fonchansiri at that football club, but have the right new owners to come in for a season in League One, I think they would take that.
Absolutely. You mentioned, Ben, about the relegated teams with parachute payments. They all conceded first this weekend. What is going on? Is this just August standard for parachute payment teams or slow starters?
It seems to be the case now, doesn't it? That you come down and you've got these big assets and, excuse me, rather than tracking with, say, a Swansea or a Norwich or a Birmingham, we've got the business done early. It feels like you're more in line with what the Premier League teams are doing, which then tends to go closer to the end of the window. We know the Premier League teams, the bigger deals tend to go later, and the Premier League teams sort of set the tone, then they know which players they can loan out to the Championship. Therefore, everything is downstream of the Premier League. And it feels like the proximity and the attachment to the Premier League of the parachute teams means you have this kind of delayed churn And also, I feel this from an Ipswich point of view, there's a bit of a sense that you have to pick very carefully what you're doing. And when you're, first world problems, right? When you're going to be signing players for multiple millions, there's not that opportunity to say, oh, well, yeah, we can do that deal and see how that works out. You can't do that. And then as well, Simon, these kind of players that have appeared in the Championship this week, El Canouse, Sargent, Amari Hutchinson didn't appear, but we think he's about to disappear. There's a few players that actually were on the pitch that we still think will be sold and then will be the lead domino in the
Harry
transfers.
Winks at Leicester, just to add to that.
There you go, yeah. In these transfers all happening. So
it was Burnley, wasn't it, last year? Beat Luton 4-1 away in that opening game, and their team was just unrecognisable.
And you mentioned Ward Prowse, who played a game for Sheffield, and Smodics last year played off the bench for Blackburn before moving. So, yes, all the fans of the other teams are going to be going, oh, boo-hoo, parachute teams, especially when we come on to Southampton and the subs they brought on. But that's the world we live in, and that's the issues they have at the start of the season in August. And make hay of other teams, score points, get in front of them.
Make hay while the sun shines. Beautiful link there, Ben. Let's come on to Southampton, Gab, because their game was incredible. What a welcome to the Championship for Will Still. They got the job done very, very late on. 2 late goals. Wrexham deserve some credit though, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think because Wrexham are a global name, it's easy to...
Just check yourself. It's incredible you're saying that. It's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah. It's easy to forget that they're on a certain process where they've just won back-to-back promotions to the Championship. And although they have got the funds to get their squad to a certain level, they've not necessarily had the time because and so I think it's going to be a multi-phase process. So for them to deliver such a competitive performance where in the first 70 minutes they were neck and neck with Southampton, and I think they had a penalty shout at 1-0 where they could have taken the game away from their opponents. I think Phil Parkinson can take a lot of credit for that, and Josh Windass I thought was excellent as well. But then in the last 20 minutes the substitutes for Southampton, bringing on Damien Downs as you mentioned, that makes a difference, and I think that strength in depth paid off in the end. But from Southampton's point of view, I think they're going to need to improve.
Yeah, Will Still loved it at the end. I think that's what he needs to create at Southampton, that kind of connection with the fans, which was so obviously missing last season when they got 12 points in the Premier League. But the subs they brought on, Ben, you alluded to it earlier. It's like, oh my word, how is anyone meant to compete with that when they're bringing the likes of Cameron Archer off the bench? It's absolutely insane.
And Simon, that's the back end of my conversation about the parachute teams in August being difficult. Coming on to Ipswich, they didn't lose. Southampton won. Leicester won. It's only Sheffield United that couldn't get the win. And that's the, if we are going to be I know you and I have discussed this at length, if we are going to be trending towards again 90, 95 plus points, that's what's going to set the tone, isn't it? Them winning every week. But yeah, nice to go Damien Downs and Fernandez, and then Archer came in, who scored loads of goals for Middlesbrough. And then Ross Stewart came in as well. Just on Wrexham as well, I wonder whether the Akpom deal that happened last night as we're recorded may facilitate Broadhead maybe going into Wrexham. We'll see what happens there.
Absolutely. We must talk about Friday night as well, because it was actually Ipswich versus Birmingham.
Yeah.
Gab, what did you make of it? I mean, it was wild, it was bitty, it wasn't as free-flowing as I imagined, but it was entertaining, wasn't it, to say the least?
Yeah, I think from a Birmingham perspective, I felt like we were possibly shaded it on the night. I think we probably deserved the win. I really liked our work against the ball. I thought Kyogo Furuhashi was, with his movement, was outstanding.
He was so good. He was so good.
And then you look to Clara and Newman, who you're talking about, Ben, like they're such absolute units, and I don't think we're going to concede a lot of goals. And then Paik and Iwata are just a joy to watch. So yeah, really exciting, because I think for a lot of Birmingham City fans there was definite confidence about what was possible this season after smashing the Football League points record last year. But I think to see us compete with another Championship team, the promotion favourites, I think is really encouraging, even though it ended in a bit of late heartache.
What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I agree with Gab at large there. And essentially you've got the most hyped team according to the bookmakers, Ipswich the favourites, and we kind of know that the bookies' odds, you're waiting for some information to come and you're doing it all on paper at that point. And Birmingham essentially the most talked about team, and essentially Birmingham lived up to their hype and Ipswich didn't live up to their hype. So I think if you're a Birmingham fan, you're like, fantastic, this team's going to compete. And I'm sure there's a lot of managers sitting there thinking, right, when am I going to St Andrews? That doesn't look too easy. If you're an Ipswich fan, the bad news is that the squad doesn't much look ready, and Akpom's obviously come in since that game and we're recording now. Looks like there's work to do at right back. Looks like the central midfield needs to be kind of
couple of wingers to come back as well, Ben, that's going to make it, because he brought on Al Hamadi to play on the right wing, which I'm not sure that was necessarily the best fit. So I think Burns to come back is going to make a difference, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a good thing if there's a lot of work to do and you still got out of dodge there with a point from an Ipswich point of view. I'm spin the positive for both. And yeah, Birmingham, I think a lot of people were like, there's a lot of hype. And for me, I'm sat there going, okay, they look good.
Final point on this game. Penalty, yes or no?
No.
I mean, by the letter of the law, it's yes, but I don't want the reward for somebody jumping, defending at a corner, and the ball grazing their hand to be a free shot at goal for 12 yards. So you can argue it by the letter of the law, but it feels like the punishment for the crime doesn't necessarily fit.
I agree with that. I think it probably is a penalty, but very, very harsh. The last thing we're going to do, reviewing the weekend's action, is each pick out a performance that we haven't mentioned so far that we were impressed with. A few to pick out here, Gab. I don't know who you've gone for.
Well, one player who's stood out to me is Adrian Segacic at Portsmouth. He scored the winner at Oxford United, and there was a great report on him when he signed for Pompey by Jack Hancock of Hancock Analysis, who said that he's a really aggressive presser, and there's this concept of running through your man rather than sort of just closing down the space and then letting him go, kind of thing. And I think that sort of that really fits into the way John Mousinho likes to play. I think if you're Portsmouth, you are at a budgetary disadvantage at this level because they've not got huge external investment. So I think if they are able to be really good against the ball, and I think when they go to the home games at Fratton Park, that can really work in their favour. So I think Adrian Segacic is going to be a great signing from that perspective.
Absolutely agree with that. Ben, who have you gone with out of the weekend performances?
Millwall. All the Millwall fans are telling me, it's been 1,000 years since they won at Norwich, and I sat here on this very show telling you how fantastic Norwich's transfer window were going, and Gab and I were discussing with his further EFL Norwich about Liam Manning maybe being a little bit of a slow burner, and Millwall and Alex Neil ready to go, and Alfie Doughty, stick him on the pitch, he will assist.
He's just an incredible signing for me. I've picked out Lewis Baker, which is an individual at Stoke, because they got an amazing
strangely excellent goal scoring record from central midfield.
Yeah, basically Mark Robbins I think brought him back from loan somewhere, if I remember rightly. Gab, anyone help me out with that? Pass. He definitely did anyway. Came back into the club when he was appointed on New Year's Day, brought Lewis Baker back, and he's kind of just moulded him into the midfielder he wants. Started scoring a lot of goals. Stoke with one of the performances of the weekend, scoring 2 late goals to win 3-1 against Derby. I have good feelings about Mark Robbins at Stoke now they've got off the mark.
Don't do it. Never trust Stoke at the start of the season. I've done it too many times and they've let me down.
Divock Mbamba, though, looks like a great signing. He's got a brilliant record in the PL too. So and he seems to have a lot of it, athleticism and goal scoring.
Wonderful header, wasn't it?
Lovely.
They're meant to be too good though, Gab, because they get redirected in January, don't they? Good loan signings.
Absolutely. Right, we're going to move on now to do a bit of a transfer window review, because the question I've got for both of you is who's had the best transfer window so far and how have we seen that reflected on game week 1? I'll kick us off by talking about Charlton, another team who got off to a great start, win over Watford. Gab, I feel they've obviously invested heavily in this team. Charlie Kelman started, got Kaminsky started in goal, Amari Bell started as well, and then of course Harvey Nibbs scoring the late winner. Have they already done enough for you to stay in the Championship, or do they need to add a little bit more? I was just so impressed with them.
Yeah, I think for me with Charlton, it's the defence. I think Lloyd Jones is a fantastic centre-half just because he doesn't lose a header. And I think that he's just absolutely imperious at the back. I think Charlton have established a really well-balanced team because at the start of last season they were a 3-5-2 and it didn't quite fit the personnel, whereas since they've switched to a kind of a 4-2-3-1, but it gets quite flexible because they've got a left back that can be kind of like a wing back in Josh Edwards, and then Kane Ramsey sort of tucks Clark's in, and they did have Thierry Small last season, and they've had to replace him. But they've got a really nice flexibility about them, Charlton, as well as a really dominant centre-half in Lloyd Jones, who, I think people are going to struggle to get past this season. So I think Charlton just stay up, yeah.
Yeah, feeling good about Charlton, Ben?
Not as good as you lot were last time. You lot were very, very high on them, but they kind of done exactly what I thought they were going to do and be hard to play against. And is it any surprise Charlton are scoring a set play, wasn't it? Charlton scoring from a set play goal in the 94th minute under Nathan Jones. Just to circle it back to the question, Simon, I struggle to not talk about Birmingham when we talk about transfers, and I had a bit of a worry that they'd done too much, but it was kind of nice to see, okay, well, I'm going to give the full-back a debut, central midfielder, one centre-back was in. Doyle probably would have played if he wasn't unwell, and obviously you mentioned Kyogo, who was brilliant up top, and that appeared to be, everyone says the way you need to do your business in your recruitment, get your pattern of play sorted first and then drip in, and I thought they got that right. And you're right, those Asian lads at Birmingham are going to be big, the two central midfielders and Kyogo up front.
It's a market bend that I think we've exploited really well, because I think you can get some fantastic players from that market that I think clubs are starting to tap into a bit more. You look at somebody like Beijing Ho at Stoke City. Sakamoto, of course, yeah. So I think that from that point of view, definitely. What I really like is that we've not just signed to upgrade in certain areas, we've also signed to push our star players from last season on that extra level. So, if Christoph Clara wants to start, he's got to get in ahead of Ivan Cashin. If Paik and Iwata want to start, they've got to get in ahead of Tommy Doyle. If Jay Stansfield wants to be our number 9, he might have to get in ahead of Furuhashi, although he did play slightly deeper on Friday night. So we've brought in players that strengthen us and also push on our star players from last season another level. So that's really exciting.
You also had a comment on Norwich. I know you touched on it a little bit, but again, we talked about their transfer business and how well they did, but they've still got the lingering Josh Sargent thing where, I mean, what a goal that was, by the way.
Stop it.
Goal of the season already in the bag. Yeah, it just feels like, I know we're not going to read too much into one game, but maybe there's been too much change there for now. It might take a bit of time to get going.
Possibly, and time will tell. It will come out in the wash, won't it? What I do know about our beloved friends at Norwich is they don't suffer, slow growth kind of, do you know what I mean? They'll make their feelings known if things are. They've been very successful in the Championship, Norwich, and I don't want to be unfair to Bristol City, but Liam Manning's now going to realise that maybe the extra time you get at MK Dons, maybe the extra time you get at Oxford when they're struggling towards the bottom, maybe at Bristol City after a reset, maybe there'll be a little less patience there at Norwich, and I do think he'll get it right, and I do really like the signings, and I do still also think Sargent will go out before the end of the window, but maybe most pressure on Manning in any of his jobs, and rightly so, because again, we let Bristol City fans and Norwich fans fight it out in the comments, but this is the job with the highest expectations 100%. He's had. Yeah,
100%. I think what's really great about Norwich City is previously they've been a purely self-funded club under Michael Wynne-Jones and Delia Smith, and so they would have had to have sold Josh Sargent possibly for less right at the start of the window, or basically before they could bring players in of any sort of cost. Whereas because of the Atanasios, they've been able to say, no, we're going to invest now, we're going to strengthen our squad. And actually, that means they can hold out for a higher fee for players like Josh Sargent, although they have cashed in on Borja signs. And it also means to somebody like Sargent, this is an exciting proposition. We're investing in players. We've signed, 10 players. We've signed players like Kvis Gordon, who's a really exciting acquisition. Jakub Medic in defence as well. Topic. So I think from that point of view, it actually seems like a more exciting prospect to their key players anyway, which really strengthens their hand. So they've. I think the Atanasios deserve a lot of credit.
Simon, sorry to interrupt. I would like Gab to be right about that, because we want to see Championship clubs, when they invest in players. I know Norwich bought Sargent in the Premier League with Premier League money, but we want Championship clubs to be able to build squads, build stars, cash in, and it not be this case of, oh, you didn't get promoted, here comes X club, and they're going to take all your stars and you're not going to get the money you deserve because of PSR. So we actually want that across the division as a whole.
Coming back to Bristol City to round that off completely, I've been impressed with the way they've managed to keep the continuity from last season, even under a new manager. They've kept most of the players that got them into the playoffs, and hopefully that'll lead to success this season. While I've got you both with me, I want to quickly run through your kind of 1 to 24 predictions,
Sure.
Gab, or at least the key ends, your top 6 and your bottom 3, and then I've got a little question for you after.
Sure. I mean, it feels like, and I put a tweet out, Simon, a few days ago. I've looked at every sort of pundit's 1 to 24s, and there seems to be a massive consensus on the Championship this season, more than I've ever seen before.
We're all copying each other. That's why Gab does his first, so he doesn't have to say that he's copied anyone. That's why he does them at the start of July.
Trailblazer, So I've got Ipswich Town, I think, win the league. That hasn't changed despite a below par performance on Friday night. I think that once the window closes and after the international breakers, speaking about off air, Ben, I think Ipswich will come strong. Birmingham, my team, I think are going to finish second. I'm very optimistic about us. I've got Southampton, Coventry and Sheffield United in the playoffs with Millwall, who I think are going to be the dark horses this year. And my bottom 3 is Sheffield Wednesday, Hull City and Preston North End.
Very good. Ben, how are you faring in comparison to that?
Well, we're embarrassingly aligned here. I want to know where Gab's mad,
Where's
Sunderland or MK Dons to win the league shout is. I wanted one of them this season.
I say them when I believe them, Ben.
Fair. Well, the Sunderland shout wasn't mad at all, was it, as we discussed last season? But I've got 5 of the same top 6. I just had Norwich in instead of Millwall, and if we're looking at diversity and getting some different clubs in the playoffs, it'd be lovely to get Millwall in the playoffs. I actually had the same bottom 3 as Gab as well.
Top 2 in that order?
I did.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. But one has to hold one's nerve. After I've got a lot of excitable comments on my 1 to 24 after just one game, and hold your nerve, keep calm. 45 to go, Simon.
Well, you've ruined my next question, haven't you? No, I was just going to ask if you've seen anything, because I've got one where I've predicted Hull to go down, and I think if I could make a tweak to my predictions, which also had Hull to go down like you, Gab, I think almost... I had it with Blackburn last year, where I think I overlooked the playing squad in favour of the ownership issues. I think if you look at Hull City on paper, having watched their game this weekend, 0-0 at Coventry, you look at their 11, I think they've got more than enough to stay in the division. So there's an apology to Hull City fans. I do think
what are you doing making an apology after day one?
They've got Panda in goal, who's a solid championship.
You're pandering to the masses, you are.
They've got Cody Drama right back, Alfie Jones, Semi Ajayi and Ryan Giles as the back four.
Didn't he?
The other
Alfred Jones, yeah.
The other one, the other Hull City centre back.
So it's Charlie Hughes.
Charlie Hughes, that's the one I'm on about.
Yeah, sorry.
So many British centre back names, yeah. So that back 4 is more than good enough to keep them in the league if they keep hold of them. And I think they've got the likes of Liam Miller, Balumi coming back from injury. I think they're going to be fine. So I'm changing my mind on Hull. I don't know if either of you want to do what I've done and maybe think, maybe I've got them slightly wrong having seen them first game week. Or if you're like Ben and you're like, I'm going to stick with what I've got.
There's not a chance you're going to get me to change my predictions after one game. I'm not as weak as you, Sam.
Ben, anything?
Well,
Rob Edwards has got off to a good start at Middlesbrough, and I thought he'd also have a bit of a wobble.
I agreed with Alan Sheehan. That game, other than the scoreline, was a 0-0.
Was it 6 shots or something in total?
Very
Rubbish, yeah.
And a set play goal. Just on the basis of the first week, Wrexham were better than I thought they were going to be. And the parachute teams know, but we think they'll even out. Bristol City, do you want to keep calm, get a little bit more evidence on them, Gab?
One thing I will add is I'm a little bit worried about Oxford on that opening day performance, because Gary Rowett was honest enough to say his team were a touch off the pace, even though they did have their chances and Schmidt out to make a couple of saves.
So he's changing his mind on Oxford, everyone. Got
me. No, I have a lot of trust in Gary Rowett. I think he's a very good organiser at championship level. I think he steadies the ship. I don't think you're going to go too far wrong with him as manager. So I'm not changing my mind, but I would have liked a better performance from Oxford.
I think they've got to just leave him to it, haven't they?
Can I come in on Gary quickly? Because I probably listened to the same interview as you did, and I also am a big fan of Gary Rowett. I felt there was some messaging going down to the fan base and the ownership, because he also mentioned, and our squad's not quite where it needs to be, and I'd like some more
Yeah.
players, please. So I'd like to, after a home defeat on opening day, say to the Oxford fans, yes, I get it. And if you give me some more players, I will keep you up. But if you don't, I told you.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is super smart managing upwards, isn't it?
Fair. I think Gary Rowett's a bit more honest and open than that sort of...
I'm not saying he's being dishonest, Gav.
No.
I'm just saying, it's worth putting it out there from a messaging point of view.
Okay, yeah. But I think what we can agree on is that Oxford probably do need 2 or 3 more.
Amen.
Lovely stuff. Let's move on to our weekend previews. We've got 3 quick games we're going to preview for you, give our score predictions as well. And we're going to start with an early kickoff on Saturday. Sees Frank Lampard go back to Pride Park, actually, Gab, because it's Derby versus Coventry. Mm-hmm. Derby defeated on the opening day. Coventry 0-0 draw with Hull.
Yeah.
How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I think Derby would have liked a more competitive performance on the opening day. John Eustace was quick to defend his players and he felt a draw would have been a fair result. I think from the Derby County fan base point of view, certainly on social media, there's a feeling would have wanted a bit more. So there's a slight discrepancy there in how they sort of perceive the performance. I think, but Coventry probably didn't have the start that you wanted, Simon, from the opening day. I mean, I guess the challenge is up top. Are we thinking Hadji right down the middle next week and everyone Mason-Clark on the left? Is that going to help you click?
I don't think any of the other strikers are what Frank Lampard wants, and I think Hadji Wright got 20 minutes off the bench against Hull. He's the one, really. He's the one we're kind of pinning our hopes on, unless there's any movement in or out. And if he's fit enough to start, even if you can only get 60, 70 minutes out of him, I think you've just got to play him and see how we go. The other strikers don't really seem to be up to the case. We'll see what happens with Norman Bissett and Ellis Sims.
Do you feel like there needs to be that bit more... would you like to see Coventry be a bit more proactive? Because I went into this summer, Simon, thinking Coventry are in a great position with regards to about 7 of your best 11, and you're like, good to go, good to rock and roll. And then there's 3 or 4 areas where you think I'd like a bit more. Are you kind of a bit disappointed that you've maybe not gone in a bit more aggressive for those key areas, like centre forward, for instance?
Yeah, I think positive is Carl Rushworth comes in goal, which is a massive positive. He did well on the weekend, clean sheet. But I think it's almost a case of where we're at with Norwich and some other teams in the league, where Milan Van Eyck, we all think he's going to leave the club, but it hasn't happened yet. Louis Binks, and he played the full 90, and Louis Binks has left the club, so now we need a centre-back. So it's almost like, again, we're in this position where the transfer window hasn't shut, but we're expecting a few outgoings, which would then allow us to bring in incomings. We've got 4 central strikers at the club, so you're unlikely to add another one into the mix without one of them going out the door as well. What do you like of Derby Coventry?
I'm thinking under 1.5 goals, to be bluntly honest.
After what I've just said about the attacking talent.
Well, and it's difficult because 2 managers got a bit of criticism, Parkinson and Eustace, for, are you sitting a bit too deep? Is it a little bit too defensive? Could you do a bit more? But they were both leading their games, weren't they? And they both lost their games ultimately, and we both know that's kind of going to be the style, keep it tight. And I think Eustace would probably shake hands on a guaranteed clean sheet if he knew he was getting the minimum point you get for that. And I'll bow to your superior knowledge on the striking situation at Cov. But
so we're going for a 0-0, are we?
Possibly.
Gab going for 0-0?
I'll go 1-0 to Coventry.
Oh, thanks, mate. You're welcome back anytime. Rovers versus Birmingham. Blackburn Rovers, we haven't actually touched on that game yet. Lost 1-0 at West Brom. Credit to Ryan Mason for getting first win in charge at the Hawthorns. Gab, impressed with them?
Yeah, what I really like is that Ryan Mason, sometimes these new managers that have more of a coaching background than a managerial background, you can have certain associations, so they might not know all the ingredients that are required and rely too much on sort of the stylistic ideals, I suppose. But it does seem like with Ryan Mason, he's going in a bit like with Chris Davies at Birmingham City, a really clear idea of all those ingredients that make a successful team, and part of that is physicality. So you look at Arne Higbo up top, who made a real impact with his physicality for the goal. You look at Nat Phillips in central defence as well. I really like Isaac Price. He had a fantastic second half of last season with the Albion. Got the winner on Saturday. So yeah, Isaac Price is definitely one to watch this season.
Blackburn did pretty well in the second half, but couldn't quite get back into the game. It doesn't get any easier when you're hosting high-flying Birmingham almost, isn't it, with all that momentum carrying into the season?
Yeah, so there's a bit of recency bias, and the fact that I was at St Andrews means I would be back in Birmingham for this one. And just momentum is... I know it's an intangible and people can reasonably say, oh, shut up, Ben, about momentum. Just show me momentum, I'll show you 111 points last season and a good performance on Friday at St Andrews. But I think Big Val will get a tune out of Blackburn this season, to whatever extent that means that they won't be necessarily struggling. But I just think Birmingham are hot, aren't they? And I'll probably be backing them.
I'll go for a 2-0 away win. Ben, what are you saying?
Yeah, that works. They're not going to concede many. I'll shave a goal off then.
We'll let you go.
2-0.
All back in Birmingham. We'll see how that one pans out. And the last fixture we're going to preview is, I believe, West Brom, Wrexham, West Brom. That's what it is. Wrexham's first home game in the Championship, Gab. I mean, they acquitted themselves quite well, but it's that Kiefer Moore injury. We think he might be out for a little while as well. West Brom did well under Ryan Mason. This could be a cracker. Yeah,
I think it was more of a counter-attacking game, wasn't it, for Wrexham away at Southampton, where they were very competitive. I think at Stoke I think they're going to be looking to nailing the pronunciation.
he was looking for us to compliment, and he complimented himself in the end.
He's done Welsh, he's done German, he's
Trailblazer. I'm fishing for compliments, guys.
You won't get him in the comments.
Fair. I think they're going to look to be very aggressive and front foot, and then it's how the likes of Nat Phillips really stand up to those kind of long throws and that pressure, and whether West Brom can find some moments of their own.
Yeah, what about you, Ben? I think Wrexham's home form's really going to be key. We say it about all the promoted sides, but especially there, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to back Wrexham. I think let's make this real simple. Wiser men than me have said football is a simple game, overcomplicated. If you have 3 large centre-halves and a goalkeeper who can save the majority of shots, a couple of wing-backs and a busy midfield, and you execute your game plan quite well, and back to back promotions would say that game plan is fairly sorted, you will be quite hard to beat. And Ryan Mason, we're all impressed with it. It's a good start. I think this might be tricky, and I thought Wrexham were unlucky. I don't know what they're going to do in terms of up top with Big Kiefer missing, but I think I'll back Wrexham.
Okay. I was just thinking though, Ryan Mason, we saw what he did in the first game week of the season with that 1-0 win. This is a really good barometer of where he and West Brom are at. A real test. What do you reckon, Gab?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're going to be looking to build on those solid foundations, I think. For me, the one to watch is Tom Fellows. Maybe didn't quite have the impact that he was hoping last week. And West Brom are going to be hoping they can keep hold of him as well. So maybe it could be a thing where, once the window shuts, he has a bit of clarity. But I think Tom Fellows, if he can find his A game, he's going to be really important next week.
Score prediction then for Wrexham West Brom?
1-1.
1-1. I'll go 2-1 Wrexham. Let's back Wrexham and have that Hollywood ending, whatever. Late on at the... How do you say the ground's name?
Stoke.
You may wonder why we haven't talked about the big game on Sunday, Southampton versus Ipswich. Well, we're going to record a 10-minute preview of that show, and it's going to be out on the Sportsman Untitled channel. And you can find our score predictions for that game then. But we're going to round off today's show with a Championship fourfold. These are all from Saturday 3pm kickoffs, guys. Ben, I'll come to you first. Who tickles your fancy this weekend?
Well, just so I can push back against you, let's go for Ruben Seller's team talk to actually work, the on-pitch team talk, and I will back Sheffield United to bounce back with a win at Swansea.
Okay, and Gab, have you got a selection for 3pms?
I think Birmingham are going to win at Blackburn Rovers, and I think Leicester win at Preston.
Excellent stuff, and round us off, Ben, with a fourfold.
Well, we've got some very giddy Bristol City fans. It's a hard one against Nathan Jones and Charlton. Let's go Bristol City to go 2 for 2. Keep themselves top of the league, presumably. Not that people like league tables this early in the season, but I'll go for Bristol City to beat Charlton.
You can find that fourfold on Betfred. We'll get that priced up for you. I think Pete would be a very, very happy man if Bristol City get 2 from 2. Thank you both for joining me on this weekend show. It's been a pleasure. Get your thoughts in the comments down below. Make sure you subscribe. As I say, 90% of you watching these videos aren't subscribed. It would really help us out. We'll be back next week, although I won't. I'm not here for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to leave you in the safe hands of Connor McGilligan. But thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Sportsman Untitled.